The twin sons of Lumerus hung high in the sky, casting silver light across the wide steps of the royal palace. The city below shone with tall towers and bright crystal bridges, alive with the movement of its people. The Lumerus were proud, tall beings with graceful forms and glowing eyes. They looked at the skies as a sign of their power, for they believed no other race in the galaxy matched their wisdom. But that day, the palace gates opened to welcome a guest who was not of their kind. A single human warrior walked up the shining path, his boots striking hard against the stone floor. His name was Aaron. His armor was worn from battles, scratched and dark from many wars. His eyes, however, were steady, filled with calm strength. The Lumerus nobles lined the great hall, whispering to one another as he entered. Their whispers were not of respect. "Is this the one the queen summoned?" one noble muttered. "He looks old and broken," another said. "Why would our queen call for a human, of all creatures?" The sound of their voices carried, but Aaron did not respond. He had walked into halls like this before. He had faced worse than whispers. His hands rested calmly at his sides as he moved forward, step by step, toward the throne where the queen waited. On the tall seat of crystal and gold sat Queen Syria, her crown glowing faintly with the light of the suns. Her presence was calm and commanding. At her side stood her daughter, Princess Vera. She was young, proud, and sharp-tongued. Her beauty was spoken of across the stars, but her pride was just as well known. When her eyes fell on Aaron, she tilted her head and laughed softly. "This is the warrior my mother speaks of," she said. "I expected someone taller. Someone brighter. He looks more like a tired miner than a protector." The nobles chuckled at her words. Some hid their smiles, others did not bother. The sound of their laughter echoed through the grand chamber. Aaron stopped before the queen, bowed slightly, and raised his head. His voice was steady. "Your Majesty," he said, "I come because you called. I offer my service where it is needed." The queen studied him with quiet eyes, but she did not speak yet. The princess, however, stepped forward, her tone sharp. "Service? What service can you give? My people guard this palace with blades of light and ships that can burn worlds. Your armor is dull, your sword is metal. What use are you to us?" Aaron looked at her but did not answer. His silence only made her more eager to speak. "Perhaps the humans still fight with sticks and fire," she said. "Is that why your armor looks so broken? Do you think scars make you strong?" The queen raised her hand gently, and the hall grew still. Her voice was calm, yet firm. "Enough, daughter." Vera frowned but obeyed. Still, her eyes burned with mockery as she stared at the human. The queen's gaze turned back to Aaron. "You have walked far, human. You carry the mark of many battles. Yet the question remains, why should I allow you to stay within these walls?" Aaron did not rush to answer. He lifted his head and spoke with quiet strength. "Because danger comes, your Majesty. I have seen the signs on the edge of your world. The same shadows that have struck my people move now against yours. You called me because you know your walls will not stand alone." The hall fell into silence. The nobles looked at one another, unsettled by his words. The princess folded her arms, unconvinced. "My people have guarded this world for 1,000 years, she said. "We need no help from humans who speak of shadows." Aaron's eyes did not leave hers. For the first time, a faint spark of fire lit in his calm gaze. "Pride is strong," he said, "but pride cannot stop what comes." Before the princess could respond, the deep voice of the palace guard commander filled the air. "Your Majesty, the banquet is prepared. The court awaits your blessing." The queen nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful. She turned her eyes once more to Aaron, as though weighing something unspoken. Then she rose from her throne. "Come," she said. "You shall join us. Tonight, the court will hear more of these shadows you speak of. The nobles murmured in surprise. Vera's lips curved in a sharp smile, but it was not kind. Yes, she said softly. Let us see what a human brings to the tables of Lumerus. Aaron bowed his head slightly, his face calm. Yet in his eyes there was no fear, only patience. He had faced both laughter and battle before. He knew that truth always revealed itself in time. And though the hall of Lumerus mocked him, though the princess looked upon him with scorn, Aaron carried a secret none of them yet understood. He was not only a guest in this palace. He was part of its history, a part hidden deep, waiting for the moment to rise again. The sun set slowly beyond the crystal towers, and the night of revelation began. The great banquet hall of Lumerus glittered with light from floating orbs. Long tables stretched across the polished floor, covered with golden dishes and crystal cups. Nobles in shining robes filled the seats, their voices rising like a wave of music. Yet beneath the beauty of the hall was the sharp edge of pride, for every eye turned toward the lone human who followed the queen. Aaron walked behind Queen Syria with quiet steps. His old armor and simple boots clashed with the jewels and silks around him. He did not mind. He had entered halls grander and darker than this, though none carried the weight of what he now felt. At the queen's side moved Princess Vera. She walked with her head high, her golden hair braided with threads of light. Her smile was bright, but it was sharp as a blade. She whispered to the nobles near her, and each word carried a note of laughter. They looked at Aaron with half-hidden smiles, waiting for more of the princess's mocking words. When the queen took her seat at the high table, Aaron was placed nearby, though not too close. Vera sat opposite him, her chin resting lightly on her hand. She studied him with the look of one who sees something strange in a market stall. At last, she spoke. Tell us, human, she said, her voice sweet but etched. How do your people dine? Do you eat from metal bowls, as beasts do? Or do you fight over scraps after a battle? The nobles laughed, some trying to hide their amusement behind their cups. Aaron did not look at them. He lifted the cup before him and drank quietly. His calm unsettled them, for he did not answer her mockery. Vera's smile grew sharper. Perhaps he does not understand our language, she said. Or perhaps he fears that if he speaks, we will hear how small his voice truly is. The queen raised her hand, her voice calm. Daughter, let the man speak if he wishes. Silence does not always mean weakness. Aaron set down his cup. His voice was steady, carrying through the hall. Among my people, we eat in silence when there is little. We speak in laughter when there is much. Tonight, I see much before me. But I have no laughter, for shadows move at the edge of this world. That is why I came. The nobles stirred uneasily. Some frowned, others scoffed. Vera leaned forward, her eyes shining with doubt. Shadows again, she said. Always shadows in his mouth. Do you mean the insect beasts that crawl in empty skies? We have shields and fleets to burn them before they touch our walls. Aaron's gaze did not move from hers. I have fought them, he said. I know how they move, how they learn, how they spread. They will come not in hundreds, but in thousands. Your fleets will hold for a time, but not forever. You called for me because your mother knows this truth. The hall grew quiet. Every noble turned to look at Queen Syria. The queen's face remained calm, though her eyes carried a weight that none could read. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then laughter broke it. Vera's voice rang across the hall. You speak as though you know more than my generals, more than my fleets. A single man with scars and metal armor dares to tell the crown of Lumerus what danger lies ahead. Her words stirred the nobles to laugh with her, though unease lingered beneath their voices. The queen, however, did not laugh. She studied Aaron closely, her fingers resting against her cup, her thoughts hidden. Before more words could rise, A sharp sound split the air. The doors of the hall burst open, and a breathless guard rushed inside. His armor was scorched, his face pale. "Your Majesty," he shouted, bowing low, "the outer shields have been struck. Unknown creatures press against the city gates. The watchtowers call for aid." Gasps filled the hall. Nobles rose from their seats in fear. The sound of panic swept through the chamber like fire. Vera's mocking smile faded. Her eyes widened as she looked at the guard. "That cannot be," she whispered. "The shields are unbroken." "No force can," but the guard's trembling voice cut her short. "They are broken, Princess. The creatures push through even now. The city cries for defense." In the moment of shock, only one man moved. Aaron rose from his chair, his face calm, his hand resting on the hilt of his worn blade. He turned to the Queen and bowed slightly. "Your Majesty," he said, "permit me to stand where I was meant to stand." The Queen met his eyes. In her gaze there was no doubt, only a quiet sadness mixed with trust. She gave a single nod. "Go," she said. "The gates are yours to hold." The nobles looked on in disbelief as the human warrior strode out of the hall, his armor gleaming faintly under the light of the orbs. Some still laughed nervously, clinging to pride, but many felt fear settle in their hearts. Princess Vera sat frozen, her breath caught. The man she had mocked was the first to rise, the first to defend the world she thought unbreakable. The Queen watched her daughter with quiet eyes. "You see now," she said softly. "Words are light, but actions are stone. Let us see which one endures this night." The night sky above the city of Lumerus glowed with fire. From the high walls came the thunder of alarm bells, each strike echoing through the streets. People ran from their homes, seeking safety within the palace walls. The great crystal towers that once shone with pride now shook under the distant roar of war. Aaron moved swiftly through the palace gates, his old armor clinking with every step. Guards rushed past him, their bright weapons drawn, their faces pale. Though their armor was polished and their blades sharp, their movements were uncertain. This was not the enemy they were trained to fight. At the outer wall, the truth revealed itself. In the darkness beyond the shields, hundreds of insect-like creatures swarmed forward. Their bodies were tall and twisted, their jaws snapping with a sound that carried across the field. Their claws sparked against the city's glowing barrier. Each strike made the shield flicker. "Hold the line," shouted the commander of the guard, his voice breaking. "They will not breach us." But even as he spoke, the shield cracked like glass. A section of the barrier fell, and the creatures poured through the gap, screeching in hunger. The guards faltered. Some stood frozen, their courage shaking. Others charged forward, but their blows glanced off the hard shells of the creatures. Fear spread quickly, and the line broke. Aaron stepped past them, his hand firm on the hilt of his sword. The blade was old, forged of steel, not of light like the weapons of Lumerus. Yet when he drew it, the sound was steady and sharp. His voice rang out, clear and commanding. "Stand together. Strike low. They bleed as all creatures do." The guards looked at him, uncertain. But the creatures rushed forward, leaving them no time for doubt. Aaron charged first. His sword cut through the nearest creature, driving deep into the softer joint of its armor. Black fluid sprayed across the ground. The beast fell, screeching. For a moment, the guards stared in shock. Then, slowly, they began to move as he moved. "Strike low," one guard shouted. "Cut their legs." The line formed again, and this time it held. Together with Aaron, they fought, blade against claw, shield against strike. From the high balcony of the palace, Princess Vera watched with wide eyes. The laughter she had carried at the banquet was gone. Below, she saw the human warrior moving through the swarm with skill and calm. His blade struck true, each motion sharp and certain. He fought as though he had faced these monsters many times before. Beside her, Queen Scifi stood silent. Her face showed no surprise, only a deep sadness mixed with pride. "Mother," Vera whispered, her voice trembling. "How does he fight so? No human should stand against such creatures." The queen's gaze remained fixed on the battlefield. "Because he knows them, daughter. He knows what they are, and he knows what they will do if we fail." On the field, the swarm grew thicker. For every creature that fell, two more pressed forward. The guards shouted, their courage rising and falling like waves. Aaron did not falter. He moved through the storm as if he had walked this path before, calling orders, guiding strikes, pulling wounded men back into the line. At one moment, a young guard stumbled, his blade slipping from his hand. A beast loomed over him, its jaws opening wide. Aaron moved without thought, his sword flashing. The creature fell, split across its chest. He pulled the guard to his feet. "Stand," Aaron said firmly. "Fear is death. Courage is life." The guard nodded, shaking, but he lifted his weapon again. The nobles who had followed the queen to the balcony gasped as they watched. Some whispered in disbelief, others in awe. The human they had mocked now stood as the strongest among their defenders. Still, the swarm pressed on. The walls shook, and fire rose from the edge of the city. For a moment, it seemed the tide could not be held. Then, Aaron lifted his voice above the battle. "Hold steady. Break their charge. Push them back." He surged forward, his sword striking true. The guards, inspired by his strength, followed. Step by step, the defenders pushed the creatures back toward the broken gap in the shield. With a final cry, Aaron drove his blade through the largest of the beasts, its fall shaking the ground. The swarm hesitated, then began to pull away into the night. Silence fell across the field, broken only by the heavy breathing of the guards. The ground was dark with the bodies of the fallen creatures. Aaron stood still, his sword lowered, his chest rising and falling with slow breaths. Around him, the guards looked not at the swarm but at him, their eyes filled with respect. From the balcony, Vera's hands trembled as she gripped the rail. She could not look away from the human warrior. Her mocking words burned in her memory, now hollow against the truth before her. The queen turned to her daughter, her voice soft. "Do you see now, Vera? The man you mock stands where none of us could. Remember this night, for it is only the beginning." Vera said nothing. Her pride was broken, but in its place grew something new: confusion, curiosity, and a fear she could not name. Aaron raised his head, his gaze sweeping the city. He knew the swarm would return. Tonight was only a warning. The true storm was still to come. The city of Lumerus rested in uneasy silence after the battle. Fires burned at the edges of the streets, and healers moved through the wounded. The people whispered in fear, for they had never seen their great shield broken, nor their proud soldiers falter. But one name spread quietly through the palace and the markets: the name of the human warrior who had stood against the swarm. Aaron sat alone in a quiet chamber within the palace walls. His sword lay across his knees, cleaned of the dark blood it had spilled. He sharpened the blade slowly, each stroke steady and calm. Though his body was weary, his eyes stayed sharp. He knew the battle at the wall had only been the first of many. The door opened softly. Queen Scifi stepped inside, her robes flowing like silver water. She closed the door behind her and stood watching him for a long moment. "You fought as you always did," she said quietly. "Calm against the storm." Aaron did not look up at once. His voice was steady when he spoke. "I fought as I must. The swarm learns. Each time they come, they return stronger. Tonight was only their first strike." The queen's eyes lowered. "I know. That is why I sent for you. My generals are brave, but they do not understand what you understand." At last, Aaron lifted his head to meet her gaze. For a brief moment, the years between them seemed to vanish. He saw in her eyes the same strength he had once known long ago, in battles fought side by side on distant worlds. But the silence between them grew heavy. The queen sighed and walked closer. My daughter does not yet see who you are. To her, you are only a stranger who shamed her pride. She cannot know the truth, not yet. Aaron's hand rested on the hilt of his sword. His voice carried both pain and patience. She has your fire. But she carries no memory of me. Perhaps it is better that way. No, the queen said firmly. She stood before him now, her hands tightening against her robe. It was never better. It was only necessary. Her eyes grew distant as she spoke, as if recalling a story buried deep in her heart. Many years ago, before my daughter was born, our world was at war. The swarm pushed across the stars, destroying all in their path. The Lumorous were proud, but pride alone could not win. We fought beside others' worlds that now lie silent. And among them were your people. The humans. Her voice softened. I remember those days well. And I remember you, Aaron. A warrior who never bent, never yielded. Even when wounded, you stood to fight again. I found strength in you. Aaron lowered his gaze. The memories pressed heavy upon him. He had not forgotten those days, nor the bond they had shared. You speak as though it were yesterday, he said. For me, it feels that way, Syria whispered. But when the war ended and peace returned to Lumorous, the council demanded separation. They would not allow a union between our kinds. I had to choose between my people and the life I wished for. I chose my people. Her voice trembled, but she did not look away. And when Vera was born, I chose silence. I let her grow without knowing the truth of her father. I feared what the council would do if they learned. And so, she grew believing only half of her story. The chamber was still. Aaron's hand tightened on his sword. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the silence. She does not know that I am hers. The queen closed her eyes. No. And she has mocked you because of it? Her pride blinds her, but she is young. She does not see what I see. Aaron rose slowly to his feet. He stood tall, his shadow stretching across the chamber. His eyes met hers, steady and strong. She deserves the truth. Not for me, not for you, but for herself. Pride without truth is emptiness. The queen's hands trembled. She stepped closer, her voice soft. I fear what the truth will do to her. She has built her life on the belief that humans are beneath her. To learn that her own blood is human, it will shake her world. Aaron's eyes softened, though his voice stayed firm. Better her world shake now than fall when the swarm returns. She must know who she is, and why I fight. At that moment, the door burst open. Princess Vera stood in the frame, her eyes wide with shock. She had come quietly, following her mother, and now she had heard enough. You speak as though you share secrets, she said, her voice sharp with confusion. What truth do you hide from me? Why does this human speak as if he belongs in our blood? The queen's face paled, but she did not turn away from her daughter. Her voice trembled, yet carried strength. Because he does, Vera. He belongs more than you know. Vera's eyes narrowed. She looked from her mother to Aaron, disbelief written across her face. No, that cannot be. Tell me it is not so. But the queen could no longer hide what she had buried for so long. She took a slow breath and whispered, the truth will come, daughter. And it will change everything. The chamber was thick with silence. The torches burned low, their light dancing across the polished walls. Princess Vera stood at the door, her eyes burning with confusion and anger. Her mother, Queen Syria, faced her with quiet sorrow. Aaron stood still, his face calm, but his hands clenched at his sides. "Tell me the truth," Vera demanded, her voice sharp. "What is the secret you whisper in the shadows? Why does this human speak as though he has claim to me?" The queen's shoulders trembled, but she did not look away from her daughter. Slowly, she stepped forward, her voice steady though soft. "You ask for the truth, and I will give it. The man you mock, the man you call lesser, is not only a warrior. He is more to you than you can imagine." Vera frowned, her chest tightening with unease. "What are you saying?" The queen's voice rose, carrying weight that filled the chamber. "He is your father." The words struck like a blade. The hall seemed to fall silent, as if even the flames had stopped moving. Vera's breath caught in her throat. She shook her head, her eyes wide in disbelief. "No, that is impossible. A human cannot be of my blood. My father was a hero of Lumerus, not this." Her words carried bitterness, but her voice trembled. She looked at Aaron with fierce denial, searching his face for a lie. Aaron did not speak. He simply held her gaze, his eyes steady, filled with a pain he did not hide. The queen stepped closer to her daughter. "I speak no lie. Years ago, in the war that nearly ended our people, I fought beside this man. He was my ally, my shield, my strength. And from that bond, you were born. I hid the truth to protect you, to protect him, and to protect this throne. But no longer. You deserve to know who you are." Vera staggered back a step, her breath quick and shallow. The pride she carried all her life cracked like glass. The thought that her blood was half human struck her heart like a storm. "No," she whispered. "You dishonor me with these words. I am Lumerus, pure and strong. I cannot be the child of a human." Her eyes flashed with anger as she turned on Aaron. "Why do you stand silent? If this is true, speak it. Prove it. Or deny it and leave this palace forever." Aaron's voice was calm, but each word was heavy. "I do not need to prove what cannot be denied. I am your father. I see my spirit in your fire, my scars in your pride. You need not accept me now, but truth does not bend to anger." Vera's face twisted with conflict. Her heart screamed to reject him, yet her mind could not escape the memory of the battle she had watched. The way he moved, the way he fought, it had stirred something deep within her, something she could not explain. The queen laid a gentle hand on her daughter's arm. "Do not let pride blind you, Vera. Blood does not lessen who you are. It strengthens you. You are both Lumerus and human. That is your gift." But Vera pulled away, her voice breaking. "Gift? No, this is a curse. My people will never accept this. The nobles will whisper, the council will turn. I will be shamed before them all." Aaron's eyes softened, though his voice stayed steady. "Shame is nothing compared to truth. I fought tonight not for pride, but for you. You are my daughter, whether you believe or not. And when the swarm returns, I will stand again not as a stranger, but as the blood that binds us." Tears filled Vera's eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. She could not let herself show weakness. Her voice lowered, almost a whisper. "If you truly are my father, then why did you never come for me? Why did you leave me to grow without knowing you?" Aaron's jaw tightened. His eyes dropped to the floor for a moment before he answered. "Because I was told to leave. Your mother chose silence to keep you safe. And I honored her choice, though it tore me apart. I watched from afar, never able to stand at your side. Tonight, fate chose otherwise." Vera's breath caught again, her anger mixing with confusion and a pain she could not name. She wanted to scream at him, to cast him out, but part of her heart wavered. The queen placed herself between them, her voice calm but strong. "The truth cannot be undone, daughter. You may hate it for now, but the time will come when you will see it as I do. This man is not your enemy. He is your blood, your strength, and your protector. The chamber was silent once more. Vera turned away, her hands trembling. Her world had shifted in a single moment, and nothing felt solid beneath her feet. She could not look at Aaron, not yet. Aaron, however, did not move toward her. He stood where he was, his gaze steady, waiting. He knew the truth would take time to grow in her heart. He had carried silence for years, he could carry patience for her now. At last, Vera spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I do not believe it, but I cannot deny it either. The queen closed her eyes, her heart heavy with both pain and hope. The truth had finally been spoken, but the bond it might build was still fragile, like glass on the edge of breaking. And beyond the palace walls, the swarm gathered once more in the darkness, preparing for the next strike. The palace felt colder after the queen's words. Princess Vera walked the long corridors alone, her steps heavy. The truth burned inside her heart like fire. She could not forget her mother's voice declaring Aaron her father, nor the human's calm eyes that held no denial. Each thought cut her pride, yet she could not escape it. The nobles whispered louder now. Some had heard the rumor already, carried by hidden ears. They spoke in corners, their voices sharp with doubt. A princess born of a human, they said. The council will never allow it. The throne will fall. Vera heard the whispers, and her anger grew. She felt betrayed, not only by her mother but by the blood in her own veins. She trained alone in the courtyard, striking again and again at the practice dummies with her glowing spear. Each strike was fierce, yet her heart was not steady. One evening, as the suns fell low, Aaron came to the courtyard. His armor was scarred from battle, but his posture was calm. He watched her movements without speaking. At last, she turned on him, her eyes blazing. Why do you stand there in silence? Do you think I will call you father? Do you think I will accept this curse? Aaron did not flinch at her words. His voice was steady. I do not ask for your acceptance. I only ask for your strength. The swarm is not finished. They will come again, and when they do, this city will need both of us. Vera lowered her spear, her breath sharp. I will fight for my people. But I will not fight for you. Aaron's gaze did not waver. Then fight beside me, not for me. You do not have to claim me as father. But when the battle comes, stand where you are needed. Her heart twisted, torn between pride and the strange pull she felt toward him. She wanted to deny him again, yet deep inside she remembered how he had fought at the wall, how his blade struck true where others had failed. She hated to admit it, but she had felt a spark of respect. Before she could answer, a horn sounded from the walls. The cry of alarm filled the air once more. Guards shouted, running through the palace halls. The swarm had returned. Vera's blood ran cold. She looked at Aaron, and without another word, they both turned toward the gates. The city was already in chaos when they arrived. The night sky burned with fire as creatures swarmed across the fields. Their numbers were greater than before, stretching far beyond the eye could see. The ground shook beneath their charge. The guards formed a line, their glowing blades ready, but fear was in their eyes. The broken shield flickered weakly, unable to hold. The swarm pressed harder, clawing and striking until the barrier shattered in a storm of light. The creatures rushed through. Aaron drew his sword with calm certainty. His voice rang across the line. Hold your ground. Strike their joints. Do not fear their numbers. The guards listened this time, their trust earned by his strength. Beside him, Vera lifted her spear. Her hands trembled at first, but she forced her breath steady. She looked at the man she did not want to call father, then turned her eyes to the enemy. If you falter, human, I will not save you, she said sharply. Aaron gave her a small nod. And if you falter, daughter, I will. Her anger flared, but before she could answer, the swarm struck. They came in waves, claws slashing, jaws snapping. Aaron's sword flashed, cutting through the first beast that lunged at him. Vera struck with her spear, piercing another through the chest. For a moment, their weapons moved in rhythm, each covering the other's side. A massive creature leapt at Vera, its jaws wide. She raised her spear, but her stance was unsteady. The beast was faster than she expected. Aaron stepped in front of her, his blade cutting across the monster's neck. Black blood sprayed as the creature fell. "Your footing is weak," Aaron said calmly. "Plant your stance, or you will fall." Vera's face burned with shame, but she obeyed. This time, when the next creature lunged, her strike was true, driving deep into its chest. She looked at Aaron, and for a heartbeat, there was no anger, only understanding. The battle raged on. Father and daughter fought side by side, their movements slowly weaving together as if they had trained for years. Each time one faltered, the other struck. The guards around them found courage, their line holding stronger than before. From the palace balcony, Queen Syria watched with tears in her eyes. She saw not only the warriors they were, but the bond forming in the heart of battle. At last, the swarm began to break, retreating into the shadows once more. The ground was littered with their fallen bodies, and the air stank of their black blood. The defenders stood weary but alive. Aaron lowered his sword, his chest rising with heavy breaths. Vera stood beside him, her spear dripping dark fluid, her face pale but determined. For the first time, she spoke to him without scorn. Her voice was quiet, almost reluctant. "You fight as though you were born to guard me." Aaron looked at her, his eyes soft. "I was." Vera did not answer. She turned away, but her heart no longer rejected his presence. She did not call him father, not yet. But she no longer denied his place beside her. The night was not victory, only survival. Yet in that survival, a bond had begun to form, forged not by words but by blood and battle. And far beyond the stars, the swarm gathered once more, preparing for war greater than before. The city slept only for a few hours after the swarm was pushed back. Fires burned on the walls, smoke drifted through the air, and the wounded were carried into the palace halls. Soldiers whispered that the enemy would return stronger, and no one doubted it. The swarm never stopped once they had chosen their prey. Princess Vera walked among the soldiers with her spear in hand. She saw their tired faces, their bleeding wounds, and their trembling hands. For the first time, she understood the weight her mother carried as queen. The throne was not about power. It was about carrying the fear of an entire people and standing firm even when strength felt broken. Her eyes often wandered to Aaron. The human warrior was everywhere, helping wounded soldiers, setting the line of defense, and speaking calm words to men who had nearly lost hope. He did not act like a stranger in this land. He acted like one of them. Still, her pride held her back. She had fought beside him, yes, but to accept him as her father was a step she was not ready for. Her heart fought itself, torn between blood and pride. At dawn, the horn sounded again. This time, the sound was deeper, urgent, filled with fear. Scouts rushed through the gates shouting that the swarm was coming in numbers beyond count. Thousands upon thousands of creatures darkened the horizon, their wings and claws blotting out the rising sun. The queen stood on the palace balcony, her golden armor gleaming. Her voice carried across the courtyard. "My people, this is the hour of truth. The swarm seeks our end, but we will not fall. We will fight, not only for the throne, not only for our blood, but for the stars themselves. Stand firm." The soldiers roared, though their voices shook. Aaron stepped forward, his hand on his sword. "This is no battle we can win with strength alone. We must strike their heart, or we will fall no matter how long we fight." The queen nodded, her eyes on him. Then you know what must be done. Vera frowned, confused. What heart? They are endless beasts. There is no leader. Aaron looked at her. There is. I have seen them before. In my own world, they came. We learned that their hive is bound to a queen of their own. Destroy her, and the swarm falls into chaos. Without her, they are nothing. Gasps spread through the nobles. Could it be true? Vera's voice shook with doubt. And where is this queen? Aaron pointed toward the darkest shadow in the distance. A massive shape moved among the swarm, larger than a palace, its body covered in shifting armor and glowing eyes. Vera's blood ran cold. That is no queen. That is a monster. Aaron's tone was steady. Monsters can bleed. And if it bleeds, it can be killed. The queen turned to her daughter. Vera, this is the path laid before you. If you are to be queen one day, you must know what it means to fight for your people. Go with him. Strike their queen. End this war. Vera's breath caught. She wanted to refuse. She wanted to deny him again. But her mother's eyes left no space for pride. Slowly, she nodded. Then I will go. The gates opened, and Aaron and Vera rode out together on swift beasts, their weapons ready. Behind them, the city prepared for its final defense. The swarm closed in like a storm. Black wings blotted out the light, claws scraped the ground, and screeches filled the air. But Aaron and Vera cut their way forward, moving like one. Her spear flashed with golden light, his sword burned with steel fire, and each strike carried the weight of two worlds. At last, they reached the great creature at the center. The swarm queen towered above them, her body armored with thick plates, her many eyes glowing with cold hunger. Vera's heart faltered at the sight. She gripped her spear tight. We cannot kill this. Aaron stood firm. We can. Trust me. He leapt first, his blade striking deep at the queen's leg. Black blood spilled, and the monster screamed. Vera's spirit ignited. She rushed forward, her spear striking the creature's chest. Together, they fought like fire against storm. The queen lashed out, her claws tearing the ground. Aaron was thrown aside, his armor breaking. Vera cried out and rushed to him. He struggled to rise, blood on his face, but his hand gripped hers. His voice was faint but strong. End it? You are my daughter. You are stronger than me. Strike true. Her heart broke at the words. She could not deny it any longer. In that moment, she knew the truth. This man was her father. Not because her mother said it, not because of blood, but because he had given his life to protect hers. With tears burning her eyes, she stood tall. She raised her spear high, its golden light shining brighter than the swarm's darkness. With a cry that carried across the battlefield, she drove it into the queen's heart. The ground shook. The great creature screamed and collapsed. Across the fields, the swarm faltered. Without their queen, they lost their order. They scattered, shrieking, falling into chaos. The defenders on the walls cheered as the tide broke at last. Vera stood over the fallen monster, her chest heaving. She turned to Aaron, who still knelt on the ground. She dropped her spear and ran to him, lifting him with trembling arms. Her voice broke as she spoke. Father. Aaron's eyes softened. For the first time, she had spoken the word. He smiled faintly. Daughter. The battle was over. The city was safe. And in that moment, not only a throne was protected, but a bond of blood and love was finally restored.